Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel where today I am going to give you my February wrap-up, and it's going to be super short because I only completed 2 books. I don't really know what happened. I was reading this month. I definitely wasn't not reading, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, my weekends were pretty busy, so I never really got to read during the weekends, but I feel like, I don't know. In any case, I completed 2 books, and then I'm in the middle of 3 books. So maybe I'll have a heavy March because of that. But in any case, to get right into it, the first book I read this month was The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. I read The Handmaid's Tale for the first time about 2 years ago and absolutely loved it. That book was so I'm about to combine the words superb and fantastic in my brain and come up with a weird word. But yes, both of those adjectives aptly describe how I feel about The Handmaid's Tale. And I mean, there's something about The Handmaid's Tale that there's a certain scene in that book that really brought it all together. And it's at the very, very beginning, and no one ever talks about it. And maybe because I'm sensitive to the whole Japan thing, I was more I don't know, affected by it. But it was a scene maybe a few chapters in where in the Republic of Gilead, there was a scene with some tourists, and they were Japanese. It was Japanese tourists, and they're wearing mini skirts, and the girls have nail polish on their hands. And it was interesting because the Japanese tourists were asking their tour guide about the handmaidens. Do they enjoy their situation? Do they actually, you know, sleep with the commanders? Like, what's their like social rule? What's their situation? Stuff like that. And I thought that was so clever because one, that scene told you that you weren't in one particular moment in the past. That Republic of Gilead was something that happened in the past. No, that scene tells you that the Republic of Gilead is a current, present day situation. And secondly, the thing that's so amazing about that scene is how in such, I think it was only even 1 page long, but how cleverly it switched the concept of Orientalism and exoticism. So it's very common when tourists come to Japan and they see the geisha in Kyoto, and they're like, do those women, are they forced to become geisha? Are they allowed to have boyfriends? Do they sleep with their clients? Like, there's all these questions about these modern day geisha. And so the fact that Margaret Atwood had switched the Orientalism to be Japanese tourists asking about these very white women if they enjoy having sex with these commanders was so clever. So I was excited to read The Testaments by Margaret Atwood, which is a sort of, it's a sequel, but it's actually it's a sequel, but it does talk about the past a lot of one specific character, and that's the character of Aunt Lydia from The Handmaid's Tale. And to not spoil The Handmaid's Tale, which is definitely a must read, I won't say who Aunt Lydia is, but just to know that this is the story about that character, Aunt Lydia. And I enjoyed reading this, but I'm gonna say it's not that memorable. I agree with some of the criticisms. I disagree with some of the criticisms. I don't think I'm as harsh as some people when they criticize this book. For me, it was perfectly enjoyable, but it didn't have like the revolutionary ideas that come from The Handmaid's Tale. But the thing of it all is that it wasn't supposed to be, because we already had that. You're not supposed to be shocked by anything in this book because you've already been told everything about this Republic of Gilead. So yeah, it does become more of just a character study. But the thing for me with Aunt Lydia is, although it became a character study of Aunt Lydia, I wasn't convinced that was actually her character and that was her past. And it doesn't matter to me that I wasn't convinced, because Margaret Atwood, who created this story, it's her canon, it's her character. So if she believes that's what the character's background is, then that's what it is. But for me, I don't know if that's the direction I would have gone. I think I would have kept Aunt Lydia I would have kept her character similar to actually what the first book was. I wouldn't have given her other motives, basically, is what I will say about this. So I enjoyed this, I like this, but while The Handmaid's Tale is a book I would reread, and I highly would recommend, I think this is just, it's fun. I mean, Margaret Atwood is such a beautiful writer. She's so easy to read. Like, I read this in a few days, which is, again, weird that I didn't really read much in February, because like I read this in like 3 days. But yeah, so that's The Testments by Margaret Atwood. And the second book I read, it was the book it was my workbook, so the book I read while on my lunch break, and that's The Trauma Cleaner. It's a nonfiction, basically about this woman who is a trauma cleaner. So basically, Sarah Krasnostein meets this woman at a conference and is incredibly intrigued by this whole concept of trauma cleaning, which is basically the people who go into the homes of hoarders, for example. They go into crime scenes, they clean up crime scenes. If someone died alone in their apartment and their body wasn't discovered for maybe a few weeks, she comes in and cleans up those very tough to clean, like lots of biotoxic type areas, and she really comes in to clean those. But the thing about this book is that it goes back and forth between the past of the not the character, the woman in question, the trauma cleaner. Her name is Sandra, and it goes into her past where Sandra was born as Peter, and so it begins with Peter and his adopted life, and then how he was beaten by his adopted father, and how he leaves the home and he joins the gay scene, but even in the gay scene he doesn't feel like that's the perfect match, and eventually he transitions into this woman of Sandra. So you have the background of Sandra's life with this current life of her as a trauma cleaner, and so you kind of wonder how she got to this place. And I mean, it's a very interesting story, but for me, I didn't really get along with this. I'm not convinced by Sandra. I think Sarah Krasnostein really tries to persuade her, portray her as a very like sympathetic character. You're supposed to feel bad for her. I think Sarah Krasnostein really trying to manipulate our feelings into one direction. But there are certain parts in this book that I didn't think Sandra was a very good person, especially when it comes to how she manages her business and how she doesn't really take care of the people who work for her. I feel she kind of takes advantage of them, to be perfectly honest. And so I wasn't really convinced about Sandra. And yes, she had a terrible past. She had to work as a prostitute. She was sexually assaulted. Obviously abuse as a child, abandonment as a child, all those social issues, and I'm not taking that away from her. She's very, to be able to go through that, it's very courageous, it's amazing, it's absolutely amazing. It's not something I could ever imagine, because I came from a very happy upbringing and a very loving and supportive upbringing, so you definitely feel for her, but I just wasn't convinced by the book. The book didn't really do much for me personally. I also think Sarah Krasnostein kind of inserts herself too much into the book. I think she was trying to find herself almost via this Sandra person. It's like, well, we don't really need your opinion, to be honest. And that sounds harsh, but for me, that was kind of the reaction I had reading this book. And yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I think there will be people who absolutely love this. This is like all the nonfiction prizes it had back in Australia. Winner Victorian Prize for Literature, winner Victorian Premier's Literary Award for Nonfiction, winner Douglas Stewart Prize for Nonfiction, win ABIA General Nonfiction Book of the Year, winner Dobby Literary Award. So it's not without any nonfiction literary merit, but the book for me didn't work as much as, say, some other nonfiction I've read. That's it. So this is definitely something that if you're interested in this topic, then you should read it. But for me, it just didn't. I'm okay with giving this away. So that's it. Those are the 2 books I read. So The 3 books I'm in the middle of, and by in the middle of, I'm really at the end. One of them, that's The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. I'm only 30 pages from the end. This is my train book, which with the coronavirus, I don't take the train that much these days, so it's not like I can, I always have this, it's not like I'm always reading this. I mean, it's 90 pages long, you can read this in a day, but it's nice to have like a little slim book to put in my bag for the train. So I have 30 pages left of this, so this will be done in March. My workbook is the nonfiction travel memoir, Stories of the Sahara by Sam Mell. So I'm about a little bit more than halfway from there. I think I have like only 100 pages left of this. And then I'm only 100 pages away from finishing the first book from my secret TBR, which you'll be seeing that video, well, as soon as I finish the next 100 pages, you'll be seeing that video. So it should be coming up pretty soon. Might be incredibly boring, but I made an effort. But yeah, thanks for watching. That's it for February, and I will see you guys again in March. All right, happy reading. Thanks for coming, and I'll see you next time. Bye.